At a forward operating base deep in the desert, a quiet woman moves alone through the hangar, meticulously cleaning the 30mm chain gun of an AH-64 Apache. Everyone sees her as background noise, sleeves rolled up, eyes down, doing her job. She is just the armory tech, invisible and unnoticed until a decorated pilot rushes in and spots the faded patch on her sleeve. Black and gold, ancient, classified. His face shifts from indifference to disbelief. Word spreads. Higher-ups arrive. Some veterans back away. Others salute without realizing why. She never looks up. She just keeps cleaning. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If this story resonates with you, please consider subscribing for more untold military stories. Dawn breaks over forward operating base Vanguard. The desert air still holds the night's chill as tech specialist Zephyr Thorne moves through the aircraft hangar with practiced precision. She's the first one in as always. The massive H-64 Apache looms before her, its 30mm chain gun awaiting her attention. The rest of the base sleeps while Zeph works. Her routine never changes, arriving before sunrise to claim these quiet moments for herself. She pulls her toolbox closer and begins the meticulous process of disassembling the weapon system. Her movements are efficient, economical, nothing wasted. Each piece of the M230 chain gun is removed with the confidence of someone who has done this hundreds of times before. Her hands move almost independently of thought, allowing her eyes to occasionally scan the hangar entrance. Always watching, always alert, despite her deliberately unremarkable appearance. The sound of distant voices signals the end of her solitude. She continues working as the first rays of sunlight stream through the high windows of the hangar, illuminating specks of dust in the air. As the base comes to life, young mechanics filter in. They're loud, laughing about something that happened in the barracks last night. One notices Zay and nudges his friend. "Morning, General Dust Mop," he says with an exaggerated salute. The others laugh. Zay doesn't react, continuing her work as if she hadn't heard. When she reaches for a specialized tool, the sleeve of her uniform pulls back slightly, revealing a small scar on her wrist. The kind that doesn't come from mechanical work. She's been at Vanguard for almost 7 months now. Before that, it was Forward Operating Base Condor for 5 months and Joint Base Reynolds before that. Always in supporting roles, always in the background, the perfect place to be invisible. A group of pilots walks through the hangar on their way to the briefing room. Not one of them acknowledges her presence. She's part of the landscape, like the tools on the wall or the warning signs above the fueling station. Just another component in the machine of war. In the mess hall during lunch, she sits alone. A sergeant places his tray down at her table, then notices her and moves to another spot without a word. She eats mechanically, her eyes constantly moving, taking in everything around her. In the supply depot later, she's handing in requisition forms when a lieutenant walks up and interrupts her mid-sentence to ask the clerk about his own order. The clerk immediately turns his attention to the officer, leaving Zay standing there, form in hand, invisible once again. She returns to the hangar by early afternoon. Captain Reeve Calloway, the hangar commander, approaches with a clipboard. He's young for his rank with the sharp edges of someone trying to prove himself worthy of his position. "Thorne, I need this Apache ready by 1400. Colonel's orders." His tone is dismissive, the way someone might speak to a vending machine. "And try not to screw it up this time." She's never once made a mistake in her work. Not a single time. But Calloway walks away without waiting for acknowledgement, already focused on something else. Zay returns to her work, rolling up her sleeves in the warming air. On her upper arm, partially hidden by the uniform fabric, is a faded patch, black and gold. Its design intricate but worn by time. She normally keeps it covered completely, but the desert heat makes that difficult. The hangar bustles with activity by mid-morning. Pilots prepare for missions. Mechanics work on various aircraft. The noise level rises with the temperature, voices, and tools, creating a symphony of military efficiency. Zeph remains focused on the Apache's gun system, invisible among the activity. Major Tavish Blackwood rushes in late for a briefing. He's a decorated pilot with the confident stride of someone accustomed to respect. His flight suit is adorned with patches that tell the story of a distinguished career, combat missions, special qualifications, unit insignias. Authority radiates from him naturally, unlike Calloway's forced command presence. As Blackwood hurries past Zay, something catches his eye. He stops abruptly, nearly dropping his helmet. His head turns slowly, eyes fixed on a point on her arm. He stares at the patch now partially visible beneath her rolled sleeve. His expression shifts from hurried indifference to stunned disbelief. "Is that?" he begins, voice barely audible above the hangar noise. "Is that patch real?" Zeph doesn't look up, just continues reassembling a component of the firing mechanism. After a moment that stretches too long, she gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. Blackwood places his helmet down slowly, approaching with newfound caution. His earlier rush forgotten completely. "Eagle Talon Division," he whispers. "You were Talon." She remains silent, hands still moving with mechanical precision. "That's not possible," Blackwood continues, mostly to himself. "All Talon operatives were reported Kia after Samurand." Zeph finally pauses her work, looking up at him with eyes that suddenly seem far older than her appearance would suggest. She says nothing, but her look silences him immediately. There's a weight to her gaze that no regular technician should possess. Blackwood straightens involuntarily, almost at attention. "I'll be discreet," he says quietly, then retrieves his helmet and leaves with one final backward glance. Throughout the day, the atmosphere in the hangar shifts subtly. Blackwood speaks urgently to other senior officers in corners. Groups form, stealing glances at Zeph. Some veterans immediately recognize the significance of the patch when pointed out. Others remain confused but sense the change. Captain Calloway notices the strange behavior, watching from across the hangar as a colonel he's never seen before walks through the main doors, accompanied by two stern-looking men in unmarked uniforms. "What's going on?" Calloway asks a lieutenant who just shakes his head in disbelief. "That woman," the lieutenant whispers. One cleaning the Apache. She's wearing a Talon patch." "A what?" "Eagle Talon Division, most classified unit in Special Ops history. They were ghosts. Went places even Delta Force wouldn't touch." Calloway scoffs. "That's ridiculous. She's just a tech. Been here for months." "That's what makes it so strange," the lieutenant replies. "If it's real, she's not just some tech. She's a ghost." Calloway's confidence wavers as he notices senior officers gathering, all focused on the unremarkable woman he's been ordering around for months. The woman he's ignored and dismissed. The woman who's been maintaining million-dollar weapon systems without ever making a single error. By late afternoon, the hangar has developed an unusual quiet. Normal operations continue, but conversations are hushed. Every eye eventually finds its way to Zeph, who continues working as if nothing has changed. A group of young airmen who normally joke loudly near the tool crib stand in uncharacteristic silence. When Zay walks past them to retrieve a calibration device, they straighten their posture without seeming to realize it. The day ends with Zay still working, seemingly oblivious to the growing tension around her. She completes the reassembly of the chain gun, performing a function check with practiced ease. But those watching closely enough might notice that her movements have changed subtly. More alert, more ready. The pretense of being ordinary has begun to slip away. As she packs her tools for the day, she glances toward the hangar entrance where two military police officers have taken up positions. They weren't there this morning. She looks at the patch on her arm, then pulls her sleeve down to cover it completely. She knows the quiet days are ending. The whispers will become questions. The questions will become orders. And what she's been preparing for all these months will finally begin. Late afternoon sunlight slants through the high windows of the hangar, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. Base Commander Colonel Austin Mercer arrives with his aide, ostensibly for a routine inspection. His weathered face gives nothing away as his eyes immediately find Zay working on the Apache. Colonel Mercer is not a man who visits hangars without reason. His presence alone causes personnel to stand straighter, voices to lower. He studies the patch on Zay's arm for a long moment before whispering to his aide, who nods once and hurriedly leaves. Zay continues working, but her body language has shifted slightly. Her movements remain precise, but there's a new tension in her shoulders. She's aware of being watched, aware of what's coming. 3 military intelligence officers enter the hangar minutes later, speaking briefly with Colonel Mercer before positioning themselves near the exits. They wear standard uniforms, but carry themselves differently. Hunters among soldiers. The regular personnel sense the tension and give the Apache a wide berth. Major Blackwood approaches Colonel Mercer, standing at attention briefly before speaking in hushed tones. "Sir, is it really her?" "We're confirming now," Mercer responds quietly. "Pentagon's pulling the classified files. If it's genuine, this changes everything about Operation Sandstorm." "If she's who that patch suggests," Blackwood says, glancing towards Zay, "she should be running this base, not maintaining our aircraft." Mercer's expression remains neutral. "If she's who that patch suggests, Major, there's a reason she's not." Zay finishes reassembling the Apache's gun system. Her movements precise and confident, even under the weight of dozens of watching eyes. She wipes her hands on a rag and turns to face the growing crowd. For the first time since arriving at Vanguard, she stands fully upright, no longer adopting the slightly hunched posture of someone trying to avoid notice. Colonel Mercer's aide returns, slightly out of breath, and whispers something in his ear. Mercer's expression shifts from skepticism to genuine shock. He straightens his uniform and approaches Zay directly, stopping at a respectful distance. The hangar falls completely silent. Even the distant sound of aircraft on the tarmac seems muted, as if the world itself is holding its breath. "Lieutenant Colonel Thorne," Mercer says formally, his voice carrying in the quiet space. "The Pentagon confirmed your identity 20 minutes ago." Younger personnel gasp. The mechanics who mocked her earlier look stunned. Captain Calloway, watching from near the tool station, goes pale. "Eagle Talon Division." Mercer continues. "Operation Midnight Protocol. 7 confirmed deep shadow missions across 3 continents. 3 Congressional Medals of Honor classified under presidential directive. The only survivor of the Samurand incident." With each phrase, the atmosphere in the hangar grows heavier. Some of the older veterans exchange knowing glances. One master sergeant near the back unconsciously raises his hand in a salute before catching himself. "You were reported Kia 5 years ago, ma'am." Mercer continues. "Why are you here?" Zay speaks for the first time in front of the assembled personnel. Her voice steady but rough from disuse. "Because dead women don't get asked questions, and I needed the quiet." Her eyes scan the hangar, taking in every face, every reaction. "I needed to disappear while I figured out who betrayed my team." "Your team was ambushed during an extraction." Mercer says intelligence indicated a security leak from within Talon itself. "Not from within Talon," Zay corrects him. "From within this base." A murmur runs through the gathered personnel. "Vanguard wasn't operational 5 years ago," Mercer says, confusion crossing his face. "No, but 60% of your staff transferred from Joint Base Archer," which was Zay steps closer to the Apache's navigation system. "May I, Colonel?" After a moment's hesitation, Mercer nods. Zay activates the system and enters a series of commands that shouldn't be accessible to a maintenance technician. The screen illuminates with a map showing troop movements and communication patterns. "For the past 7 months, I've been tracking encrypted communications moving through Vanguard systems. Someone here has been passing classified flight patterns and operational details to a private military corporation called Obsidian Hand." Major Blackwood steps forward. Obsidian Hand is a defense contractor. They provide security for half our diplomatic missions overseas. "They're also selling weapons technology to hostile states," Zay replies. My team discovered their operation during a routine surveillance mission in Samarand. When we had enough evidence to bring them down, they eliminated us. At least they thought they did. The hangar erupts in controlled chaos. Senior officers gather around Zay as she begins explaining the data on the screen, pointing out patterns of communication that coincide with compromised missions. Captain Calloway watches from a distance, his earlier arrogance replaced by shock and embarrassment. The young mechanics who mocked her stand at rigid attention whenever she glances their way. "How did you survive Samarand?" one of the intelligence officers asks. Zeph's expression darkens. "I was separated from my team during the initial attack. By the time I fought my way back to the extraction point, they were already gone. I found their bodies 3 days later." She pauses, the weight of memory evident in her posture. "I spent 2 years gathering intelligence on Obsidian while officially dead. When I traced their operation to Vanguard, I requested transfer here as a technician. Low profile, access to communication systems, and plenty of time to monitor suspicious activity." "And the Apache," Mercer asks. "Why this specific aircraft?" "Because this isn't just any Apache," Zeph replies. "This particular aircraft was recently fitted with a prototype for the new Hawkeye targeting system, a system that Obsidian helped develop. I've been modifying it to intercept and decrypt their secure communications." Zeph removes the patch from her sleeve, studying it for a moment. The black and gold insignia seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. This shouldn't have been seen, but since it has, she hands the patch to Blackwood. "The mission isn't over. They're coming. You need to prepare." "Who's coming?" Mercer asks, though his expression suggests he already knows the answer. "The same people who killed my team. They've been looking for me for 5 years." She turns to the Apache. "And now they found me." As if to punctuate her statement, the distant sound of an explosion rolls across the base. Alarms begin to wail. "That's the north perimeter," Mercer says, already moving toward the communication station. "All personnel battle stations. This is not a drill." The base transforms from routine operation to high alert in seconds. Officers shout orders. Personnel run to predetermined positions. Through it all, Zay stands calmly by the Apache, watching the organized chaos with the eye of someone who has seen far worse. Major Blackwood returns to her side. "They hit us at shift change. Maximum confusion. Standard Obsidian tactics." Zeph confirms. "They'll have a primary strike team targeting this hangar. Specifically, this Apache contains the only proof of their entire network." "How many should we expect?" "At least 20 operators, former special forces. Well-equipped, highly trained." Blackwood glances at the patch in his hand, then back to Zeph. "No offense, ma'am, but one Talon operative and a hangar full of support personnel aren't going to hold off 20 elite mercenaries." For the first time, Zay allows herself a small smile. "You're right, Major." She reaches into her toolkit and removes a false bottom, revealing a compact sidearm and combat knife. "That's why we're not going to be here when they arrive." As darkness falls over Vanguard, we see Zay at the center of it all, directing preparations. No longer invisible, the woman everyone ignored now commands the attention of the entire base. The transformation is complete. The disguise discarded. The ghost has returned to the world of the living. And she's brought a storm with her. Dawn breaks over the base, painting the sky in hues of amber and gold. Zephyrin Thorne stands on the flight line, watching Apache helicopters prepare for takeoff. The transformation is complete. Gone is the hunched posture and downcast eyes of the maintenance technician. She stands tall now, dressed in proper combat gear, her former authority fully restored. The black and gold patch is visible on her shoulder, no longer hidden. The night had passed in a blur of preparations. After the initial attack on the perimeter, Obsidian's forces had pulled back to regroup. Intelligence suggested they would return at first light with reinforcements. The base had used the reprieve to fortify defenses and evacuate non-essential personnel. Captain Reeve Calloway approaches hesitantly. His usual confidence is gone, replaced by an awkward deference. He stops at a respectful distance, clearing his throat. "I didn't know," he begins, the words clearly difficult for him. "You weren't supposed to," she interrupts, her voice calm. "That was the point. I treated you like..." He struggles to find the right words. "Like I was invisible. That's what I needed." She turns to face him directly. The rising sun catches the angles of her face, highlighting the strength that was always there, hidden beneath a carefully constructed mask of ordinariness. But not anymore. Calloway stands straighter, finding his professionalism again. "What can I do?" Zeph studies him for a moment, assessing. "Your maintenance crews respect you. I need them at their best today. Every aircraft we can get airborne gives us an advantage." He nods, purpose replacing shame. "You'll have them, ma'am." He turns to leave, then pauses. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Save the apologies for later, Captain. We have work to do." Calloway nods and leaves with new determination in his stride. Zay watches him go, then returns her attention to the flight line where technicians are performing final checks on the combat helicopters. Major Blackwood approaches now in full flight gear. The eagle talon patch is affixed to his shoulder, a gesture of solidarity that doesn't go unnoticed by Zeph. "Aircraft is ready, Colonel," he says. He hesitates, then adds, "I flew 3 extraction missions looking for Talon survivors after Samarkand. We never found anyone." "You weren't supposed to," Zay replies. "But I appreciate that you looked." The distant sound of vehicles draws their attention. Colonel Mercer arrives in a Humvee, accompanied by his intelligence team. His expression is grim as he approaches. "Satellite shows multiple assault teams converging on our position," he reports. "Day 15 minutes. We've got 2 Apaches ready for immediate takeoff. 2 more can be airborne in 20 minutes. We only need 1, Zeph says, nodding toward the Apache she's been maintaining for months. "That's our ticket out of here." "Out of here?" Mercer questions. "The Pentagon ordered us to hold position until reinforcements arrive." "With respect, Colonel, reinforcements won't get here in time. Obsidian has too many resources, too many connections. The only way to end this is to get that data to CENTCOM directly." Mercer looks unconvinced. "You're talking about abandoning this base." "I'm talking about completing the mission." A counters. "This isn't about Vanguard. It's about exposing a network that's compromised our entire military intelligence apparatus." A tense silence follows. Finally, Mercer nods. "What do you need?" Inside the command center, Zeph points to satellite imagery showing movement in the desert surrounding the base. Red dots indicate enemy forces closing in from multiple directions. They call themselves Obsidian Hand. They're a private military corporation that's been infiltrating government contracts for decades. My team discovered they were selling classified tech to hostile states. When we had enough evidence, they tried to wipe us out. "Why didn't you report to command after surviving?" An intelligence officer asks. "Because I didn't know how high the infiltration went. So I disappeared, took the lowest profile positions I could find and watched." She indicates the base around them. 3 months ago, I spotted one of their operatives here. That's when I requested transfer to Apache maintenance." "You knew they were coming," Blackwood realizes. Zeph nods. "The Apache's targeting system contains the final piece of evidence I need to expose their entire network. I've been modifying it to decrypt their communications." She pulls up a schematic on the main display. The Hawkeye system isn't just for targeting. It's the most sophisticated data collection platform ever installed on a combat helicopter. Every transmission it intercepts is logged and encrypted. What Obsidian doesn't know is that I've been using their own encryption keys against them. Another explosion rocks the building closer this time. Dust falls from the ceiling. "They're here," Zay says calmly. The command center erupts into activity. Mercer begins issuing orders for defensive positions. Zeph checks her weapon, then turns to Blackwood. "We need to get to that Apache now." They move quickly through the corridors, the sound of gunfire growing louder. Outside, the base is under attack from multiple directions. Smoke rises from several buildings. Defense teams return fire from fortified positions, but they're outnumbered. Zay and Blackwood reach the hangar to find it under guard by a squad of Marines. The Apache sits ready, its systems already powered up by the ground crew. Situation. Zay asks the squad leader. Enemy forces have breached the south wall. They're making a push toward this position. Hold them as long as you can. Once we're airborne, fall back to secondary positions. The Marine nods. Yes, ma'am. Zeph boards the Apache with Major Blackwood as her pilot. Around them, the ground crew completes final preparations despite the danger. You remember how to fly combat missions, Colonel? Blackwood asks as they strap in. Zeph allows herself the smallest smile. Some things you don't forget. The engines roar to life as the canopy closes. Through the reinforced glass, they see the Marines taking defensive positions around the hangar entrance. Tower, this is Ghost 1 requesting immediate takeoff clearance. Blackwood radios. Ghost 1 Tower, you are cleared for immediate takeoff. Good hunting. The Apache rises smoothly from the ground. Below them, the battle intensifies. Enemy forces have reached the outer buildings, exchanging fire with base defenders. From this height, Zay can see the full scope of the attack. At least 50 combatants, professional and well-equipped. They really want you dead. Blackwood comments as he maneuvers the helicopter away from the base. They want what's in this targeting system, Zay corrects him. My death would just be a bonus. As they clear the base perimeter, warning indicators flash across the console. Surfacito air missile lock, Blackwood announces, his voice steady. Deploying countermeasures. The Apache banks sharply as flares deploy from its underside. The missile veers off course, detonating harmlessly in the distance. We've got company, Zay says, pointing to radar contacts approaching from the east. 2 helicopters unmarked. Obsidian air support. Blackwood confirms. Can we outrun them? Zay switches to the weapon system. We won't have to. The Apache turns to face the approaching threat. Through the targeting system, Zay acquires a lock on the lead helicopter. Ghost 1 to base. We have engaged hostile aircraft, Blackwood reports. Proceeding with mission objective after neutralizing threat. Copy that, Ghost 1. Mercer's voice comes through the radio. Be advised, reinforcements are 30 minutes out. We'll be back before then, Zay promises. The targeting system beeps confirmation of a solid lock. Fire when ready, she tells Blackwood. The Apache shudders as missiles launch from its hard points. The enemy helicopter attempts evasive maneuvers, but can't break the lock. The explosion is bright against the morning sky. The second helicopter veers away, retreating quickly. They'll be back with more, Blackwood says. Then we'd better hurry. Zay activates the specialized system she's modified over the past months. The display fills with encrypted data streams. Setting course for CENTCOM. We need to deliver this data personally. As the Apache flies toward the rising sun, Zay looks back at the base one last time. The woman everyone ignored now commands the skies. The battle continues below, but she knows the real fight is just beginning. 5 years hiding, Zeph says, checking her systems one final time. Today. The helicopter increases speed, racing against time and pursuing enemies. The black and gold patch catches the sunlight as they fly, a symbol of a unit that officially never existed, worn by a woman who officially died years ago. Some heroes live in shadows by choice. They carry the weight of classified truths and unacknowledged sacrifices. They never ask for recognition, even when they deserve it more than anyone else. And sometimes, when the moment demands it, they step back into the light, reminding everyone that the quietest among us may carry the heaviest burdens. For Lieutenant Colonel Zephyrin Thorne, the time for silence has passed. The ghost has returned, not to haunt, but to finish what she started, to bring justice for her fallen team, to expose those who would betray their country for profit. And as the Apache disappears into the distance, those who once ignored her now stand in awe of her courage, her sacrifice, and her unwavering commitment to a mission that never ended. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.